Hello, I am John Crowley and I directed the film, and I'm sitting here with...
Hello, my name's Nick Payne and I wrote the screenplay for We Live in Time.
This was not your first scene in the script.
No. It kind of started in the middle. Am I remembering that right? There was the sequence from the middle was, in theory, a kind of bookend. And this, I can't remember where this came, actually.
This was in the
early
opening 10 minutes.
Okay.
But when we removed the bookend idea, this sort of sat up as a rather interesting direct drop into Almut's story.
Where was this? Remind me.
Guildford.
Good morning, ladies.
Chickens.
Mm-hmm.
Eggs.
Hello. Thank you.
And at what point, I can't remember whether I saw a cut with the middle at the beginning, if you see what I mean. At what point did it get switched around? And did it drive you mad having a non-linear film that meant you could almost move anything anywhere?
No, it didn't drive us mad. I mean, it was a tough edit, as you know, but I would say I think that the bookend idea lasted past my first presented cut to the financiers.
Okay.
And in the next stage, we went a little harder on it. But it was an edit that had all the cards up on the wall and where sort of, I mean, it was a sort of, it was the beginning, the middle, and the end was already shuffled. So we just shuffled further.
Yeah.
And in many ways, it was about a kind of emotional logic that we were following. And it was to get back to the same form and content idea that was in your script. It's just a slightly different order of play.
Here we go.
Yeah.
That's the first jump.
First time cut. Can you remember the first thing that came to you about the screenplay? Was it an image? Was it a line of dialogue?
So interesting. It was... I think it was thinking about... It was a couple and illness, probably essentially was where it began. And then it was thinking about, is there a way of doing that, as we have discussed, that doesn't sort of rely on the illness? That you're asking a different question, and that question maybe is, how do you live in the face of death coming for you? And particularly if it's a recurrence of an illness, alas, chances are your odds are probably pretty low, unfortunately. And that in a way, I think the shuffling or the non-linear decision around the time frame was about wanting to try and capture the wondrousness in a way of what this person did when they were ill, and how they, first time they're ill, they decide to kind of make life in a way that sort of forces them to commit to each other in a way that maybe they weren't quite ready to do.
Don't look so terrified, Chef.
One of the things that I love about it. But I remember reading is that yeah, you would expect the reveal of the illness to be this sort of melodramatic event that sort of drives maybe the last act.
Yeah,
it's a sort of sad coda somehow. But actually, the fact that we were chatting about it, that is right up front, means it becomes a different question.
And that you trust the audience to hold that across the whole film, and that it therefore might influence, that it influences everything as it does in a way that when you look back on your life, you sort of, the joyous moments almost seem more joyous when your time is, you know, alas, maybe about to expire. And that it might be, once we achieve that, then we can operate. A way of tonally not allowing the tragedy of someone dying to kind of overwhelm the whole film, that you can still have real joy. And in my, you know, experiences of situations somewhat like the film, you find that something hysterically funny is right next to something awfully tragic, you know.
Again, that tonal swing from one to the other is what was deeply appealing to me. I remember vividly the first time I read it, the spoiler alert, but the birth scene,
yeah, right,
in particular, where I was laughing out loud at the sheer absurdity of the scenario and the very real sort of jeopardy that they found themselves in terms of desperately trying to bring this little baby into the world with two people who that night had just turned up to the shop and the petrol station and were getting more than they bargained for. And the sort of humor of it then kind of cresting into this profundity, this moment at the end where it spun to something very special and very beautiful. And
I read somewhere that pets
a kind of mix between
good for children, helping them to cope, but it's like,
you know,
big
the ordinariness of and epic quality of a baby being born is what was right side by side in each other there in that petrol station in Croydon.
Yeah. I think a lot of that was also coming from when I was writing it. A lot of what friends were going through, and you're all comparing sort of war stories of your birth and your not birth. And someone had told me they were on their way to the hospital on New Year's Eve, and they couldn't get there because the traffic was so bad in London. Lots of roads shut down. And there's an awful thing sometimes as a writer where you're listening to somebody tell you their really tricky story, and you're essentially going, "Great, I am saving." So I sort of
sliver of ice in your heart. As Graham Greene once said, isn't it? You know, you're thinking this is absolute
thinking,
gold.
wow, that sounds tough, but thank God you told me and not someone else. And another one was somebody told me about an experience of, it was a sort of story of a story friend of a friend that they gave birth on the forecourt of a petrol station.
Oh, my God.
Not inside a disabled loo. And again, I thought, okay, I'm having that.
It feels like
this scene.
Great.
We shot this on day 4 of the shoot, and it was, you know, they'd had a reasonably easy first 3 days of lighter stuff.
Okay.
And this was the first scene where they were going to have to do some proper heavy lifting in terms of thematically what the film's about, and it's the big announcement in a way, the it of the film. And after we shot it, Florence called Andrew and myself over and said, I don't understand, that was something just happened that was much easier than it should have been. I don't quite get it. And it was a point at which their sort of connection with each other and their chemistry really like rocked to an interestingly deep level.
Yes.
They were so with each other in the scene. One of the memory of this day was Stuart Bentley, our fantastic DP, walking away from the camera between takes because he was so upset, and it was really one of those, one of a handful of scenes where you could feel the crew, oh crikey, this is very close to a lot of people's dilemmas in life and the kind of issues that people have to wrangle with.
I'm not saying I don't want to do the treatment. I'm just saying I want it to be the right choice.
And I feel like I must ask you, given it's a commentary, how did you sent the script to Andrew first?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then what was that conversation like with him?
I had a sneaky suspicion that he'd love it, right? But only a suspicion, but partly because of who he is. And we had worked together on a film called Boy A many years ago.
Yeah.
Like 16 years ago now. He reminded me the other day. And we had tried in the interim to do a couple of things which were never the right thing at the right time. But, we knew we'd reconnect when it was the right one. And I suspected that what the film was about and, the complexity of your writing would appeal to him. And I knew that he had a very dear relationship to grief because of having lost his mother.
Right.
And felt that it might well be something that he would feel he could work with. And indeed, it was and is. And so, he responded very quickly. And we went and sat and had a chat about it. And he was in very quickly.
Yeah.
And then how did Florence come up?
About 2 weeks later, when after Andrew sort of joined, maybe. And at first, when, Fiona, my infinitely better second other half, who happens to be my secret weaponist and my casting director, suggested Florence, and she wasn't available when we checked out her availability. She was doing a Marvel film.
Right.
And just before we were about to move on, it was literally one of those cases where Fiona went, I'm just going to just check once. She called her agent and said, you're not going to believe it. The agent said that this morning that film has shunted back by 8 weeks, which was our exact window.
Right.
And it never happens like that. So they were both free for that 8 week.
Yeah.
Global brand.
Which meant we had to get our skids on because this was sort of early January. And that 8 week period began in April. So it was fast. But I'd never met Florence, So the first time I met her was to talk about the script, and she was and is a total joy, delight, funny, and direct. But I knew her obviously wonderful work, and the instinct that I kind of had from that was that she was ambitious for the work, and that you never know, you hope that they will connect.
And they had met, chemistry. But not.
They presented.
I can't remember the timeline.
Well, I think they'd never worked together. They had never met really properly. But by the time we started shooting, they had presented an award together at the Oscars.
Yes, that's right.
And
that's right.
Social media started demanding, we need to see these two in a film right now. And I was like, well, hang on in there. It's coming at you shortly. So, and they did connect, and they were really trusting of each other quite quickly. What's been lovely as the film has gone rolling out, is the comments about the level of chemistry that they have, which is palpable. And you can't really force chemistry. You can't do it. Anyone who tells you can is lying. You can invite it to be released. And, but it was very touching watching the way that they trusted each other and the way in which the work sort of exponentially grew deeper as the shoot went on. And there were a few scenes where, and like the one I mentioned, the underground car park was one of them, where you could feel the work would drop a few degrees even deeper in one day.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that there wasn't an awful lot of giggling and laughter and fun, because they're both very playful people as well. It was not a tortured set.
Here we
go. I can't tell the secret behind that shot. Andrew says I do all my own stunts, but he had a little bit of help from somebody who likes to do that for a living. So the first kind of gesture of the film, in a way, with the chopping and changing of time, is you hope viewers who know nothing feel on the right side of confused, that they're sort of happily confused, and that there's a promise written in invisible ink that the form will reveal itself.
Yeah, they're kind of invited in rather than shoved away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which was, one of the challenges, of the edit, but also of sort of releasing it in a way, of making sure that the audience would come on that journey with us. It's not that it's avant-garde, quite the opposite. It's got a very playful spirit to it. But this is a long way to come for our two main characters to meet each other for the first time. But I think this is the scene when I watch it with an audience where you can feel the pleasure of an audience going,
Yes, yeah.
That really is the beginning, middle, and end, not in that order at all.
Well, I guess it sort of invites a slightly different... Hopefully the audience are searching for all sorts of things, but when you get to this bit, you're going... You're interested in the how of it, I guess, rather than the kind of literal
Just the
plot
why.
of it. Yeah. And so I certainly find when I watch it, I'm kind of almost searching for clues in a way as to how they're going to make it work with each other. So you're slightly hanging off the end of everything they say, which is pretty spare. They're really only saying hello and a couple of words, but you're kind of, and obviously because they're so good.
The classic 50s American diner here on the Great British Roadside.
Carlotta,
Our burgers are made to our special recipe.
Great Sue Wallace,
British beef.
a wonderful actor.
Top dollar shakes are made with real dairy ice cream to die for. What can I get you?
I'm pretty certain I more or less took that from
Verbatim.
So pretty much from maybe I won't name the chain of diner, but yeah, it was.
You'll get sued.
Yeah, I know. I'll keep quiet.
Wheatos help and ready breakfast. Yep.
Wow.
And Weetabix. I don't know. Should we talk about Weetabix?
You must be really regular.
I don't know if they've given us clearance on their name yet, so maybe they did. I think they did eventually, but it took a while.
Oh.
Yeah.
How about yourself?
I'm a chef. Plus, restaurant owner.
What kind of cuisine do you do?
Do you remember at what point here you are in the shoot? Because they seem so kind of easy and relaxed with each other. I'm assuming it's somewhat further down the line, but
I think this was a good 3 weeks in. I mean, it was an 8-week shoot. It was not, luxurious in that way, but, yeah.
Oh no.
No, it's blown by him. It was going to be great. You should come. No, honestly, I feel like that's the least I could do.
Oh.
And your wife too. Darling. Yeah. There is something that your daddy and I
Something that Mummy and me want.
we want to talk to you about.
Yeah. Something a little bit important, actually.
A bit serious, though.
A bit serious and a bit grown up. A bit serious, bit grown up, bit important.
Yeah. So, Mummy didn't realise it, but Mummy's actually been feeling quite ill.
A bit of a tummy ache, kind of a pretty nasty tummy ache. And the doctors have basically said,
What a delicious looking ice cream sundae. Yummo. My name's Noel. What's your name?
so sorry.
How would you like to see me make this entire bottle disappear?
No, seriously, this is not a good time.
Will you help me say the magic word?
No! No, go away.
One of the great pleasures of the shoot was actually they're very good comedians. Throughout the manner in a very subtle way, but Andrew's quite a good physical comedian actually. In a few moments where he does a double take in such a glorious way.
All right, you two. It's basketball.
It's a very witty.
For both of you. Am I going to have to come and get you?
I remember that there were sort of two things that fed into that scene. One was essentially kind of Googling how do parents of young children talk to them about serious illness? Like, how do you do it? And the advice back then generally seemed to be, you should tell the truth, but obviously not be overly sort of descriptive or kind of freak them out in a way. And my daughter was roughly the age. I should probably admit the character of Ella is at this point, I think. I'm trying to remember.
Was she 7 now?
Yeah, she's 7.
So she would have been.
And the other thing was, I remember years and years ago seeing a table magician go up to... it was a couple who were basically not talking to each other. And I was kind of on the other side of the restaurant, but I mean, I was completely gripped. And the guy just
writer still observing poor people's misfortune. Go on.
I was just like, that's it. The guy, the sort of one of the people in the couple, after a few lines from the magician, just screamed out, "Fuck!" And the magician just, took his glass and walked off.
We had fuck off in the scene at one point because Andrew said go away in front of little Grace on the day, but we did a couple where, away from her earshot. But actually, it's sort of, I don't know, with that little child's face in the scene, it didn't quite have the same humor as maybe the scene you observed.
I can hear it now, like I heard it.
Yeah, the thing that I love about the way, because there are, two very different lovemaking scenes in the film, and the tone and the way in which they sort of embody them both. That this is a good sort of 5 years into a relationship, the specificity and comfort that they were able to bring to it, as opposed to their first date when they kind of can't keep their hands off each other. The playfulness of all that was really, really great to watch.
Kind of like my old boss. Well, he wanted to know if I was interested in trying out for the Bocuse d'Or.
Had you heard of the Bocuse d'Or before you?
I had not.
No.
No, I must admit. Had you? Before you started, so you Googled it and...
I did, yeah. I think once I thought maybe the character should be a chef, I was then sort of watching chef documentaries. And there was forgive me, I can't remember the name of it, but there was an American documentary, that was about a chef training for the Bocuse d'Or. And I guess I thought I really wanted the character to have a huge ambition that she's kind of, as we were saying, in the face of death, she really commits to and pursues. And then, but it was like, how do you find something that's not a kind of, I think maybe we talked about this really early on, a kind of sports genre trope, it was like and also something in truth that you could conceivably be doing whilst you're having chemotherapy and how would you fit in those hours and convincingly sort of keep it a secret from your partner?
Thing I found really interesting, which again is sort of rather specific and fresh in this instance, is what it does to them as characters. That information is that it couldn't be a more loving marriage when the cancer returns to her, but ultimately they walk that path alone, side by side, and the secrecy that opens up between them felt to me really interesting and somewhat, I don't want to say against the sort of regular tropes of an illness narrative, but it felt very truthful, especially when you've got a character who is, as you say, ambitious, who's forward planning, who runs a restaurant, who thinks maybe in 5 years terms, and what happens to that person if they get tapped on the shoulder and told, well, you don't have 5 years. Something might get over dialed up, which is to do everything and compartmentalize in a way that doesn't ring true to everything they perhaps would have, or isn't the way they would have chosen to live their life into that information.
Well, I think weirdly in the, I mean, again, out of order, but at that point in their lives, he, I think, has learned so much from being with her and has changed hugely. And in some ways, she's slightly still got that kind of one final thing to wrestle with, which is, we'll get to that.
Not capitulating
later. This is like a sort of anxiety dream I had. When, I mean, that's the thing I was sort of really interested in about trying to write about a birth was like,
Yes, it was.
my memory of being on the sidelines for those is that their time does just kind of dissolve.
Yes, it does.
It's like you're prepped for this event that feels wrapped in time. It feels completely urgent. And as the days wear on and the hours wear on, time just becomes sort of meaningless.
Yeah.
And then, when either your waters break or the contractions begin, you suddenly feel like even that starts to feel very liminal and strange.
Yeah.
Like the urgency should be ramping up, and it was completely bizarre, I found. Yeah.
You're not controlling it.
No, exactly. You just, you have to completely.
Yeah. And then suddenly you're out of time.
Yeah.
Sort of, it's hurry up and wait. It's
And it's
very interesting.
And with the birth scene, it was trying to find a way where they're sort of either freed by time or trapped by time in the other two timelines, and actually to try and have a sequence where you go, something else takes over in the moment where time doesn't matter anymore, the pressure of the moment doesn't matter, and they're kind of so focused on the task that in a way it's like it abolishes time, and you just kind of watch them go through it,
What about his door?
I think it's one of the things that was difficult in the edit for a while, which was that you've got these 3 different time frames which have different values. You've got one which is across a day, which is the day of the birth, running against one which is across a sort of 5-month, maybe 6-month period.
Yeah, right.
Specified.
Yeah.
Running against a 5-year overall from the very first moment they meet till when they say goodbye. And it's sort of similar to Dunkirk, which has 3 different. Yeah. Well, but it was when I realized that in the edit, I was like, oh, okay, well, it's been done. It is possible, but you have different time senses, and in a way, there's sort of making sense of that day where it's all about waiting and the playfulness of that waiting, and then suddenly they are out of time, literally. Nothing they can do is happening right now in Croydon, the petrol station. Douglas Hodge, great actor.
Yeah, I'm probably going to have to wet bathe you back here. It's looking a little burnt.
Yeah, he's great here.
Wonderful.
Really? Oh. I'm jealous, you realize that? Hey, Rayner just probably crave.
Jay Rayner, of course, lives in Herne Hill, I think, so shout out.
Okay.
Yeah. Giving a hostage to fortune, Jay Rayner just published a rave. And you better hope he likes it when he sees it.
This is a strange bit of the film where I live near these places, so I'm pretty close to Herne Hill.
You know this restaurant.
And then this is a restaurant in Peckham. I don't know, should we give them a shout out, called Artusi? It's absolutely delicious.
I don't.
Oh my God. Mr. Weetabix. This is so great. What's the arm?
And my kids eat loads of Weetabix. That's honestly why it's in the... Yeah, my daughter was going through a real phase at the point at which I was writing, where all she ate was Weetabix.
I have you down as a table for...
There was a point when it looked like we weren't going to get
the
name, when it was... nothing else would suffice once you see that it's got to be Mr. Weetabix. I mean, it's just...
I'll let Chef know you're...
too good.
And this, if I'm not mistaken, was an Andrew idea. Was a great idea where he, correct me if I'm getting it wrong, but he said we should see the first time he tries her food. Yeah,
he wanted to show the effect on him
On pop, we have
of her food, and in a way to taste her genius. That's how he saw it, and
it was a really great idea. I think.
Hi.
Hi.
Marks out of 10 for my tiny sausage.
10.
I'm sorry to hear your wife couldn't make it. Is everything all right?
We're actually not, well, I mean, technically speaking, we still are, but legally speaking, we're also.
They're so good together, aren't they? Cheeky and playful and
no, they're so good. I mean, I remember coming to rehearsal for maybe a couple of days.
Oh, the back of your neck is so smooth.
I mean, it's a bit of a banal observation, but I just thought,
Oh, is he some kind of barber?
fuck this, so good. It was like just a joy to kind of, and there wasn't, like per se any kind of fully fledged performance or anything going on, but you really saw that they were both very kind of comfortable and easy and thorough. I mean, and prepared, it was a complete joy to go, it's going to be completely safe in their hands,
They are two amongst the most prepared actors I've worked with when they walk on set. Yeah, you're right. In rehearsals, the speed of thought that would sometimes flash into scenes was thrilling. And I remember neither of them would want to go too far emotionally, but I remember the wariness in rehearsals, never wanting an emotional scene to pop, because obviously you don't want anything like that to happen when a camera's not on it. But it's almost that they couldn't help themselves. They were like a pair of racehorses kicking at the stalls. I felt it was sort of, they were.
I can confirm to you
already hungry for it.
Yeah.
I do have access to complimentary Weetabix, yeah.
And was there any of it you were at all able to shoot in any way chronologically, or the whole thing was a jump?
Chronologically, but we were able to cluster scenes around each other so that they weren't having their heads wrecked by the we tried to never have them jump more than 2 time frames a day. Not that they were anything other than completely ready to rumble always, but no, we would gather scenes, but unfortunately they would invariably be location led sometimes.
Yeah.
And of course there's a big change of hairstyle in the middle of the film, which was a sort of center point of the whole shoot. Because, for obvious reasons, everything had to be done before or after that point. But I think because they were so used to the script already being jumbled timeline, it wasn't as great. This shooting schedule didn't look.
Oh, I see. Interesting. Yeah, of course. Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
I didn't realize you were...
Was there 3 time frames there from the start of your inception in the script? Because the first draft I read had the 3.
They were. Yes. I think they were. Yeah, they were. There was the kind of, in my head, it was like the first year, the last year, and a day. And kind of in this timeline, the attempt was, it's like, there's no pressure on their time per se, other than the sort of self-imposed, which is kind of coming up. He's a slightly more, not neurotic, what's the right word? He's sort of more concerned with time at this point than she is. And so, and then, the birth is a kind of manifesto almost for the sort of awful unreliability of time's passing. And then the end was, the sort of harshest clock of all, I suppose. I think there was a point in development where it kind of, obviously, the order changed. but it broadly, when I delivered it, it was sort of trying to offer those three things in tandem, juggling them.
My memory of the first draft was that it was a sort of almost an embarrassment of riches. It was just, there's too many endings. It was a job of distillation, wasn't it?
Yeah.
To be confident that one instead of three would do one gesture for each. Beaten, it got richer and more potent somehow for that.
Well, and the same, I dare say, in the edit.
It goes down another
like,
level
yeah,
again.
Yeah, for sure. You go, I can really see in retrospect the script had a kind of sprawling, rambling quality that had to be kind of honed.
You're starting to maybe think about children. Then you got a position in Sweden, which was great.
Did you, in prep with either your heads of department or with the actors, did you approach the timelines as separate entities? Or did you did, yeah.
We did prep it with a spreadsheet for every department being able to feed in. So, otherwise costume could have done something different too. This set, which is a build, Alice Normington did such a beautiful job.
I guess there's a world where
has 3 degrees of decor development in it, from where she's here, where she's got cardboard boxes. I feel she's so focused on her career. It's as if she's moved in but hasn't fully unpacked. And her life is held in cardboard boxes, which a lot of people do. And then, when you see them later on and he's moved in with her,
What's the thinking behind the 2 goals?
It looks much more complete as a more decorated, lived-in, homely thing. And I think one of the so there was everything had to be done on a grid, so that you knew where every prop, every costume, and every set detail in the ostensibly in the linear narrative was developing, and that sort of came partly as well from a decision earlier on, which is I didn't want the 3 time frames to be shot in a different way. While they each have their own design aesthetic, I didn't want one to have a blue tint and one to have a red tint.
Sure.
We weren't going to use date cards or 2015 on the, so part of the task became about how do we, within the frame, give viewers enough information without shoving it at them so that they could almost inhale the context and the sort of time frame. And then after a while, ideally, the fact that it was all being shot in a similar style would mean that the realities would bleed into each other as one reality rather than 3 distinct things. That was I love this.
Yeah, tell me about this.
Well, you wrote it, and I was a bit nervous of it. I thought, okay, we'll shoot it. We had to, we shot it on the last day on the set, and we broke down the wall to do it. And and they were so charming and did it beautifully. I was a little nervous, if I'm honest, that it could be a little too sweet.
Yeah.
Right. And the idea came up with Stuart Bentley in prep to do it in a single shot, as it were. I think you suggested that we cut between them, that you look at each of their faces, and then we thought maybe we'll just do it with a move through the wall, which is not anything we do anywhere else. And But when I looked at it, it was so lovely and deeply felt from both of them. And it felt like a private moment that we were being privileged to see between us.
Yes.
And actually, with that piece of music on it, it took on a degree of significance, the moment, rather than a romantic comedy. It felt that both of them, in a weird way, were like almost suggesting, oops, this might be real. And in a way, it's almost like he's burning the house down here.
Yeah.
That it's a bit too heavy too quickly. That there's a fear that they can feel, like a vertigo of falling in love. This is a great scene. They're both so good at this.
It's just different, isn't it? You know, meeting someone our age, whether we like it or not. Clock is ticking.
I'm sorry, but what the actual fuck are you even doing?
Well,
I mean, what's so great about what
it's
they're
also
doing,
preferable to
and
have a
obviously the way
moderately
you
awkward
cut it and
conversation
shaped
right
it,
now,
is that
rather
you
than a
hold
completely destructive one in
you
5
hold
minutes.
both their
Firstly, I'm 34.
sort of points of view on the
I'm
argument,
55,
and
so how about
and
we
it's
just
great.
move
You know,
on?
I'm sort of with him, and then when she goes, "What the fuck are you?"
Bullshit.
I go, "Oh yeah, what the fuck are you talking about?" Yeah,
You swing back between the two of
yeah.
them, I know. But so many of their, well, they don't have many arguments, but but it is an interesting thing is that
What's the rush?
they're such of
Agreed.
two very
There's a
decent
very
people
distinct and real
upsetting each other in a way
Yeah.
with slightly differing views of points about to the same end, which is
Yeah.
wanting to build a life together and disagreeing with how to get there.
I'm sorry, I'm just not someone who's interested in making that kind of a promise. And in fact, there's this little bit of me that thinks, fuck you for even asking.
Yeah, I mean, a question about tone when you like how, because the film maintains a real warmth, but I wouldn't necessarily describe it as a comedy.
Mm.
And in a moment like that scene, it is serious, but equally, you know, there's when she at the end, Florence is almost ever so slightly giving him kind of a slightly not mocking him or laughing at him, but I don't know. I suppose my question is, how did you balance all these tones? It's not just balancing the timelines, but you've got to unify the whole thing. You know what I mean? To be able to straddle it. I mean, an example, something very serious, something lighter, to then, you know, I mean, was that a real juggling through the shoot and then through the edit?
But I mean, I think in the shoot, they relished being able to spin from, especially in more emotional scenes, to being able to catch hold of a little bit of irony or, because none of the humor in it is gag humor or laugh out loud humor. But when they spotted something, they would get a glint in their eye and they'd play, and they'd be like these expert trapeze artists flying from one bar to another within a scene. You know, there's a gorgeous example in the scene coming up where she tells about the news that's come from the hospital, and he compliments her note taking, and there's a few little flickers in there which just tell you about how easeful they are with each other, and sort of expresses some of the tone of it feeling like a marriage, really, that they know each other that well. I mean, it's one of the things I love about your writing, which I loved about the play we also did many years ago, Same Deep Water as Me, which is your ability to spin between those tones in very short order. And I think it's a great gift if you're directing a scene, because the humor or playfulness within a scene, it's almost like a heat shield. It allows you to get closer to not necessarily darker elements of the scene. It's not that it's dark, but get into more the heavier elements of the scene, what the film is really about. And you're allowed to get up close to it without announcing its aboutness or its earnestness. And that feels close to the way life plays. So I feel that feels very truthful to me.
I mean, again, it feels like you could spend the whole commentary going, "Aren't they so good?" But it's another moment where you just go,
"Well, we did.
God, they're so good."
Spent 7 months in the editing room doing that.
Yeah.
This track, which is by Villagers, was I think this was the first track to go on the film, right? Like a few weeks into the edit, and it stayed there the whole way through. And music took quite a while to figure out. We tried lots of different things, and then, you know, the great Bryce Dessner came on to compose the score in the end, and sent an almost overwhelming amount of music.
Oh, really? Wow.
And the theme, which is kind of like the love theme in a way, which is you hear at the opening and you've heard when they were back to back at that doorway, and then the over breaking eggs at the very end. These 3 different iterations of it was tucked away there, and I made the case for it. It didn't have many champions for a while, but I was like, I think this is a really unusual melody. And when I picked it out, and then we tried to, you know, asked him if he would reshape it to see if we could, like almost like on a lattice work, hang it on those scenes and see if they would begin. Because a lot of pieces of music would get shrugged off by the film. It sort of, the film didn't want to be a romantic comedy. It didn't want, there's a lot of different kinds of film it didn't want to be, and it would shrug music off effortlessly. So it took quite a while to get the hooks in. But he did admit to me that he said when the band hear this piece of music, they're going to be pissed. He said because melodies like this don't come along that often. And he just tucked it away in there amongst 30 pieces. So it was a sort of little pearl, a beautiful thing.
I saw you the last week passing by the restaurant.
Talking of Alice's work, I love The Wall, the unfinished wall.
That's it.
2 things. First of which, I was still quite angry.
She has unpacked her boxes here, but she hasn't got around to actually tackling the plaster work.
You were rude to me, which, a lot hurt. And the second thing, I was guilty of focusing on the wrong thing. Respect. Looking ahead instead of right. In front of me. At you.
Now this must have been a big day.
It was. And this was a day that Florence reminded me the other day that we had terrible weather, and we were really kind of locked in on the schedule because it was tight, and we had to cut our hair by a certain date, and because of the knock on of the schedule, and she had to go to New York for a bit. It was all really tight. And the sun came out for like 3 hours in the middle of the day. It was one of those where you just got lucky, and it was a beautiful day. It's the perfect weather for it. But everybody was nervous of this scene for obvious reasons. You know, Andrew didn't want to learn how to use the clipper more than he would have learned, which is fine, but it meant he suddenly was walking out with the clippers not entirely, but you know.
Oh my God, you're like, don't fuck up.
No, I know indeed. He's fearless in that way. And of course, Stuart, our cameraman, was terrified that the fuck up would come down to his, camera or a corrupted file on the camera or a chip or something would go. So he started off shooting with a 3D rig, which is 2 cameras pointing towards the same thing. So he could record 2 images. And after about 10 minutes of shooting, he was, I think we're okay. He broke it down to 1. But, it was one of those which there was so much focus on how to do it that the actual scene as it unfurled in front of everybody's eyes became very affecting, because actually it was and is a profound change in Florence's look, and she walked into the scene one way and walked out of it another way, and the subtext of what that is terrible and sort of sad, but the joy with which they were doing it, making memories, was so beautiful. It's one of those ones where you could feel the sort of depth, the wave rising beneath them of what the film is really about.
I mean, that's the thing I sort of was thinking, that I thought, can you do that in front of your child and make it not a tragedy for them, and sort of, make it maybe wouldn't go so far as to say empowering, but make it a kind of active choice that you're doing that isn't, she says at the end, I don't want my relationship to be defined by my decline. Yeah. And she's sort of, in a way, already obviously reaching for that at these moments.
They played with little Grace so beautifully and sort of with her props and saving the hair and all. I mean, it was just really rather gorgeously done, and she felt light and playful in it. And spontaneously then went, you look beautiful in the middle of the scene, which is really gorgeous.
Yeah, where did that come from, the box and the hair? That was...
I think Alice Normington provided us with a bunch of props that were felt appropriate. The actual saving the hair, I cannot remember where that came from.
That's lovely.
Their little box or a little suitcase, yeah.
Chef, how are we all doing? Waiting. Technical bullshit. Good news is audience is in, ready and raring. So just a little heads up from me. I'll kick things off with a little intro, a little bit about me, a little bit about my role as Bocuse d'Or UK head coach, overview of the rules, what's up for grabs today, place at the European semi-finals, so on and so forth. General frenzy, whipping, excitement. Good.
I mean, I want to ask you what on earth you thought of the Bocuse d'Or, but before that, I should say that I did. I spoke to a guy called Tom Phillips, who is a chef and was head chef or as executive chef at a restaurant in London called Restaurant Story. And he's competed in the Bocuse d'Or numerous times. And I think is competing at the moment, possibly. So I sort of tried as much as I could to grab the reality of how weird the thing is, in a way, how drawn out it is. They have to go through so many
hours and it's on the day.
So exhausting.
Really long,
yeah. But it's equally quite an odd... It's sort of mentioned in the film, but it's like the first time we see it manifest as an actual scene, you know. And we're, about just under an hour in or so.
Yeah. I mean, again, when I first read it, I was like, oof, how much do we need to know about it? Which is a sort of an editor once said to me, is this going to be on the final exam? Which is that idea of how much of what I'm looking at do I need to understand and invest in order to get to the emotional heart of the film. So really the work was about making us care about the fact that she cares about it enough and that Jade cares enough about it.
Yeah.
And that the context of the prep and this sort of how much it would risk jeopardizing her getting better for the argument. And then that in a way was the kind of way into how to shoot it, was to firmly root it in her experience when she goes out there, and to not see it the first time and then the second time you go out. And because you did
that's right. I was thinking,
food show.
I think that's right. There was a
sequence in it.
Yes. That's right. And that was at script stage, maybe. I think you said, let's really keep that up our sleeve.
Yeah.
And I'm skipping ahead, but it's such a great cut from her sort of going into
the door.
Yeah. And then, of course, all we need to see is Florence being amazing again, and we sort of play it entirely off her reaction.
Whereas when we go there, you go there and you go through the door with her and walk out there with her and then go for the full frenzy of all the thousands and the sort of madness of the event, in order to have a quiet moment in front of it. It's sort of crazy and questionable use of resources, but it's glorious. It's just not what you expect in a film which has got the degree of intimacy that you've gotten used to by now, which is essentially almost a two-hander with some key satellite characters circling it.
And I think if you structured this linearly, if this was your final act, I think it would be too strange. It would be...
Sorry.
Maybe
my favourite shot in the entire film.
Yeah.
There you go, Joan of Arc.
No,
yes, sorry, you were saying if it was linear?
Well, yeah, that I think one of the things the non-linear buys you is you'll hold the Bocuse d'Or alongside these other things.
Yes.
But if the film were trying to do it in a linear way, I think it would, you would find yourself going, why is the final act of a film a cookery competition? But I think, or I hope in this configuration, by the time you get there, as you say, actually what you're watching is someone trying to do something for their child in this completely bizarre environment. Or I shouldn't say completely bizarre, but in an unusual place maybe to spend your final moments with your child.
Many thoughts. I think I like them, John. I suspect I'm pretty easy in the way. Yeah. Absolutely. What?
Love this scene.
Mm.
I love this. This great bump.
Yeah. No, it's beautifully rendered, the bump and the whole construction of this scene through the door. I mean, it's
Ivana Primorac, our hair and makeup supremo, just the business. And she brought in specialists to do this, but she was the person who was across all of this.
Oh, don't forget your
Yes, and I've seen sort of moved around quite a bit in the edit because it's not,
I did it, yeah.
Got a lot of story in it.
No.
It's just but it's a beautiful counter pointing of a lot of other things. I feel this was the right point for it that we settled on in the end. Love that.
Yeah. And that was the Jaffa cakes were in some way set up.
Yes,
did you see them? You saw them bought them? Or?
Yes, we saw a scene in this in a supermarket where she went in. She was given them for free. But, the water was broken in the supermarket. But that scene was somewhat taking away from the petrol station scene. Because I thought there was two similar beats.
Yeah,
and ultimately bit the bullet because it was in the first half of the film.
Yeah.
Lost it.
No, it's nice to check in with them in the bath, I think, in that way that, again, they're really up against the clock, but also
passing time.
We could be here for days and days and days. They don't know. Yeah. Oh, that's great. Here we go.
Brother love
family.
Well, lovely to meet
the great Niamh Cusack.
I like them.
Hey, I know it's Brother
Lucas.
Welcome.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hey, you're the Brother Bay.
You too.
Thanks for this. Oh, pleasure.
B said we had to go to Salt Lake. And you'll love it, she said. And so we're there. And it's winter. It's snowy. It's beautiful. And we decided to visit the Tabernacle. I don't know if you know it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's, I don't even know how late. And we've watched the sun go down. It's been the most wonderful day of our entire fucking lives. And I turned to her and I say, B, don't know about you, but I think this is how I'd like to spend the rest of my life. No ring, nothing. Just said it.
And what did she think?
Don't be so fucking sentimental. I don't need a room full of people and a piece of paper to know I want to spend the rest of my life with you, she said.
Amen.
Yeah.
So when were you all in Salt Lake?
Now, was it weird or strange or fun to suddenly have other people outside your...
All the above.
All there.
Yeah. It was a lovely day to shoot this, but it was all
Be in a competition like
from first thing in the morning till last thing. This was all one day.
Competition.
And Douglas,
I used to figure skate.
who loved the script when he read it, and we had a conversation. I think I recounted this to you, that he felt he was nervous that speech, which was so beautiful, and that the story of the dad and the story about the mum would be the first thing to hit the cutting room floor, because it could be removed without losing anything. And I was like, what? Removed without losing plot, but actually there's so much for me
I said no.
in your script about
bloody marvelous.
absent parents or parents being present but missing parents, not absent parents, missing parents on both sides.
Yeah.
Wine.
That felt so sort of rich emotionally as a kind of counterpoint to what they were going through. So I'm very happy that he's survived all the way through. Oh my God, he's so good.
He's so good. Did anyone try and suggest getting rid of it? Or was it ring-fenced from the...
It was Dad.
I don't remember anybody actually taking a pot shot off that speech, actually, no.
His last chance. And I guess...
And of course, as you say, it's now...
to push me.
Yeah, maybe not in a plot way, but in a character way, about to connect us to what she's saying. Just, of course.
I think these are sort of sideways movements in the story where, again, the depth and dimension of your understanding of these people
And then when he was
becomes richer. And of course, it is a nod in the direction of some of the secrecy that she still holds on to a little bit.
Yeah,
It comes out later on that this stuff. But mostly it's not just about secrecies. It's sort of about a kind of depth of sadness and association between ice skating and
without him around,
sadness.
joyless.
You just stopped.
I think it just really reminded me of him.
Another nice cue from Bryce where you have to find something that would sort of insinuate itself underneath the scene rather than announce itself. Tricky.
I meant to ask, were you a fan of his
Love
or
the
the Nationals?
National.
Yeah.
I love the National.
Yeah.
But listen,
And I very much liked some of his scores.
Yeah.
In the meantime, I'd like to
And when he watched the film, he had a very strong reaction to it. His sister had been through something similar.
Thank you.
Wow.
So he had a very strong personal connection to it. And he was very excited about the idea of a contemporary London film that might manifest sonically, not in terms of in a streety way, but just what it would sound like.
Yeah.
And of course, he has a whole sort of contemporary classical side to his work.
Right.
When he trained in New York under, Steve Reich.
Right.
While he was, practicing with the National in his...
They said it wasn't an infection.
I say bedsit, but somewhere in Brooklyn, before they were successful.
Yeah.
Make notes.
Both sides to his work in a way that's rather fabulous. This scene is, and this was later in the shoot, and they were in great shape with each other, as it were. They were just great. The playfulness that they find in a few moments in the midst of the depths of sadness here is a bit of a masterclass for me. Here we go.
Incredibly thorough, by the way.
Every cloud.
All right, so let me just check out.
I just love that idea that she took notes carefully for him as much as anything, that it's not her sweet spot. And he notices it, and it's sort of...
So removing one ovary, not both.
Followed by?
It's amazing that they play it with complete sincerity and therefore with a bit of lightness, but without...
I vote shagging.
I vote shagging. Without compromising the complexity of the thing they're dealing with. I mean, it's just incredible.
And that's going back to the sort of heat shield idea. That's like the spin between the two.
Yeah.
And they loved it, because they would relish this sort of wish to hit the target in the opposite way. And they would be sort of like ninja actors doing these things. And it just, I think, was, of course, painful for them to be in this, but they just loved that as well.
Insane. I think I'm inclined to say that I would like to hang on to at least one of my king addled cancer-ridden ovaries. Because, well, just because I never, in a general sense, saw myself having kids doesn't mean that there isn't a world where I couldn't see myself in time deciding to have them with you.
So this is the bit, in theory, at the beginning we were saying this was
at the very end. This was the very last scene at one point of the entire film.
Oh, yeah.
Which is why it was shot in a slightly ghostly fashion. It's that bizarre thing of something reading one way and playing a different way. You don't know till you know, sadly. And then it felt like this became a natural, almost climactic energy high point in the lead towards the birth. That it took on a different function in a way. And the playfulness of the playground wasn't metaphorical anymore, because it was bookend. It wasn't sort of out of time. It was an expression of joy.
And also it becomes, when it's not bookended, I mean, in this configuration, it becomes a sort of, it's almost like they defeat time. It's like they do so much. I don't mean just getting pregnant. I mean, but they sort of commit to the relationship. They live it as fully as they possibly can. And it shows you another side of them before you head into the sort of final act of the film, I suppose. Do you know, I remember there's a scene in Boy A where Andrew dances in a club to a Robin. Yeah, I love that scene. That's a complete aside, but that just reminded me of it. Yeah, it's incredible. What you were saying about physically, I so vividly remember how strange his body is in that moment in Boy A.
Well, I remember getting a choreographer because I felt I couldn't choreograph it. And we talked about it, and the idea was that it was like a 12-year-old child locked inside and wanting to come out. Wow. And of course, in that nightclub sequence, he had slipped an E. And it's sort of, it's an extraordinary sequence. And it was also my homage to the great Claire Denis.
Right.
Love Dry. She has an extraordinary dance sequence in it.
Here we go.
And here we go.
Here we go.
Breathe in.
I mean, yeah, it's quite funny watching it because, again, there's bits of it that are like a sort of time capsule of my life.
So bringing it all back.
Well,
feeling the pains.
I must confess, when my wife came with me to the Carstens cruise screening, and when she heard the I forget even the name, the sort of birthing meditation tape in the car, she rolled her eyes at me.
Cannibalizing.
Yeah, so I'll take it from anywhere. Absolutely. I'm afraid.
That's all right.
Al! Alma!
This is very good.
This is great.
There. They're both very funny in this sequence while keeping it completely on the right side of real.
Now, silly question. This is on location. This is all on the same night.
Yes, it is. Correct.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
you can buy your Ginster pies in this Texaco station.
Good choice, Tonics tea cakes.
Very delicious. Good choice.
I'm gonna go and drink.
That is. Cheers.
Thank you.
Hiya. Hiya. Hi, how are you? Yeah, good, thank you. How you doing? Any fuel? Yeah, no. Sorry. Al? Sorry, 1 second, sorry. Al?
Mm-hmm.
Hi, everything okay?
Mm-hmm. Kind of.
What?
Well, you see, I thought I needed a poo.
Yeah.
And, now that I'm in here,
Yeah.
I think I might need to push.
No. Okay? Sorry, but you can't push. If you let me in, I can help. We have biscuits now, Al. We have biscuits, okay?
Yay.
Okay, come on. Let me in.
No, I can't.
What? Just, unlock it and open it.
I can't. No, it's not.
Wait. Sorry, I'm sorry. My partner is stuck in the, do you have the key to the, yeah. So sorry. Thank you. Thank you. With key. Don't worry. Okay. Sorry about this. No, it's fine.
I've slightly just slipped into watching it. I feel like I should ask you a question. I'm so sorry. Okay, tell me when is it not location anymore? Is this a build at this point? Or
yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So Al?
Yeah?
I'm gonna need you to stand back, okay?
What?
Standing back away from the door.
Wait, why?
All the way back! Right the way back! Alright?
Why?
So sorry. I think she might be about to give birth. Go! Yeah, maybe. I'm gonna Jane, because she'll. Okay, Jane. Pregnant lady stuck in the car, say. You bear with me.
They're so good, Kerry and Nikhil.
Kerry is a stand-up in her own right. Yeah. Extremely funny. Amazing.
Okay.
And occasionally presents terrific music programs on BBC.
Is that right?
BBC 6.
Oh, right.
Doesn't have a regular slot, but she turns up with interesting themes.
I've seen her stand up live over the years in Edinburgh a few times.
Oh my God,
It's very,
I'm sorry.
very funny.
I can feel it.
Here we go.
No, I know, but we can't. We have to. We don't. Not here. We don't.
Listen to me. It's not upstairs. It's coming. I can feel it. I'm sorry, but it's it.
Yeah, it seems like we have almost everything we need.
Except for a midwife.
For a midwife.
Now, how do you plan this and do it and
Well, we had
Yeah.
a fantastic midwife,
Okay.
Penny, who rehearsed with us in the rehearsal week.
Okay.
And Florence, of course, was quite concerned she hasn't given birth.
Yeah.
And wanted to get it right for all sorts of reasons. She wanted to do her homework, and that's what Penny was very helpful. We also had an intimacy coordinator, Eva, who was also
Wait a minute.
alongside of that work.
Sorry, I'm going to be on speaker. Hold on 1 second. Can you
And when it came to the day itself, of course, we shot very long takes.
Yeah.
I had a plan with Stuart, which is what parts we were going to cover.
Yeah.
And we ran it. So Florence wound up, giving birth, 8 times. I mean, some of those takes lasted about 15, 16 minutes.
And you ran it unbroken. You didn't. Wow.
Without dropping the baby in at the end.
Gotcha. Okay.
Spoiler alert. But yes. And so their exhaustion was absolutely real that they were playing. We shot it across 2 days, and it was very, very hard on all of them, actually. But especially Florence, she was, that prosthetic is heavy.
Yeah.
And her back was really exhausted. And
was it the petrol station?
The petrol station. Just walk straight in.
Ooh, I can feel it ahead. It's coming.
And then, of course, when the baby arrives, the little baby, 2 weeks old.
Wow.
And that shifted the whole center of gravity of everything then, from the kind of, logistical acting problem that everybody was trying to help make work, and they were doing such wonderful work.
Yeah.
Baby arrives and doesn't give a damn about ruining the sound take.
So that's a 2-week baby.
Yeah.
Wow.
Peed on Andrew's arm. Just came and was exactly what she wanted to be.
Yeah.
So, and it was really moving for them, because then it was, it gave it a degree of reality that you don't need to act.
Yeah.
Thank you, son.
Handling her, the terror that they both sort of felt, which is real, because neither of them are parents, and the responsibility of handling a little creature through.
No, it is really. I vividly remember that with my daughter, and they sort of hand you the baby, and they give you those kind of feel like they should shrink them down. My memory is there were these huge scissors to cut the umbilical cord, and I thought, give me much smaller. This seems so dangerous, and I've been awake and we're delirious.
Yes.
It's insane.
It's tough.
Yeah.
And you have been standing there feeling useless all this time. And here, into this sort of evolved really beautifully. This moment, because she suddenly got sleepy and started falling asleep with them. There you go. Everyone's a hero.
Yeah, I mean, this partly came from, and I'm sort of quite strange remembering it as we watch it from, I think it was years and years and years ago. The Guardian ran a series of transcripts of 999 calls. And again, I really remember reading those going, they're too good to pass up. One of them was a birth. One of them was one was to the fire brigade, one was to the police. That really stuck with me, like the idea of someone talking you through something that you have absolutely no expertise or ability to do,
Positive. Other treatment options are still available. Failure first time around had almost no bearing whatsoever on the likelihood of second-line success. It's fine.
I'm okay. It's okay, honestly.
It's okay not to be okay. It's a lot. You've been through a lot, both of you.
Sorry. Oh my God, you sure?
Not exactly haute cuisine.
Thank you. What did you go for? Nice.
Are you?
Oh, okay.
I think it was meant to be Snickers and Bounty. Yes, it was. But Andrew's got a nut allergy. Which we were discussing the other night in the Q&A. Somebody was asking about the specificity of the snacks in this.
Well, God love them. God love them.
Florence said to Andrew that she still feels he should have taken one for the team. Snickers. But hey, so yeah, Twix and Bounty.
I am suddenly realizing there's a real undercurrent of chocolate orange. We didn't catch it, but it was in there earlier.
Yeah.
There's another chocolate snack.
Jaffa cakes.
Jaffa cakes. These are just all things I enjoy
You-
eating. Yeah, I'm really.
This is your diet.
Yeah. It's how writers stay in such great shape. Now that, I should say, the speaker, comes from, again, the conversation with the chef, Bocuse d'Or community, who told me that it can be so loud. Yeah, it can be so loud in that arena that if you prep in a completely silent, controlled kitchen,
You'd never
it would knock you for six. Yeah. So they blare out the
it's like trying to cook at a football match or something, isn't it? I mean, it's extraordinarily performative on behalf of the fans.
We're still far too.
No, that's so true.
And this whole sous vide situation is fucking killing us.
All right, easy. It's take 5.
No, I don't want to take a break. I don't want to take 5. I want to go back to the start. I need to look at the plans. I need to look at the timings. I need to figure this shit the fuck out. Sick of this shit. I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. Break. Let's take 5.
You said earlier one of your favourite shots is that when she arrives home, and I think coming up as one of mine, where the camera's sort of looking up at the rain.
The rain coming into it.
So beautiful.
Yeah. Here we go.
Yeah, there we go. True story. I slightly stole that from Kenneth Lonergan in You Can Count on Me. Mark Ruffalo fails to collect the young boy, I think it is. Yeah.
Playing pool? No.
It's something I'm trying to remember. I can't remember the specifics. It's been a while since I watched it, but I love that film. And
that's so good.
And in a way, that thing you were saying, I shouldn't talk over this, but about the kind of lightness and the dark in the scenes and I think he does that.
He really
expertly,
does.
Yeah.
Where the hell were you? You said you were going to do pickup.
Oh my God.
No. You weren't in the restaurant because I spoke to Sky. She didn't know where the hell you were either.
Was everything okay with the pickup?
No, not particularly. It's this close to calling around A&E department.
I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I'm in training for the Bocuse d'Or.
isn't much to say about this scene, other than
just to hear it. We
I know, it's funny, I felt almost nervous at the thought of talking over it.
How long have you been prioritizing fucking cooking instead of getting better?
He was back in October.
But I do remember, I think I'd come to visit the set that day. And I was sort of crammed in a little room around the corner.
Please.
And I remember Florence on the first take, I think. That was all I remember her, and it was absolutely incredible, you know. It had the whole well of emotion that the thing needed. It was all there, you know.
The difference that
she was
It was extraordinary.
blistering, and would turn around between takes going, "Was it all right?"
Why?
Oh, one more. You do, yeah.
Wow.
It's just,
Isn't it obvious?
No, actually, it's not. Not to me.
I'm not entirely going to get the chance again, am I?
Supposed to mean? In what reality?
It means I'm not particularly interested in dying with fuck all to show for it.
Oh, okay. So we're not enough for you. Is that what it is? Award-winning chef comes former figure skating nutcase.
No, now you're just being mean.
No, I'm not. I'm honestly, I'm trying to understand what it is that motivates an otherwise ethically sane.
Call through into my thinking, you fuck.
Okay, so then I don't understand. I'm sorry, but honest to God, I don't.
Maybe, Jesus. I mean, did it ever occur to you that maybe I don't want to just be someone's dead fucking mum? I mean, at this point, nothing terrifies me more than the thought of having her. Having nothing whatsoever to remember me by. And it's like there's this bit of me that is fucking desperate for her to know that I didn't just give up. And wouldn't it be quite the thing if maybe one day she decided to look back on this time, she actually chose to look back on this entire godforsaken episode and thought, wow, that's my mum. I don't want my relationship with Ella to be solely defined by my decline. Or maybe I actually can't bear the thought of being forgotten. I'm not sure which is worse.
I mean, I think the amazing thing you've done there is, as we were saying earlier, the script was sort of probably baggier and a bit looser. The thing you've done is you've really
Wanting us to somehow
found a shape which releases every single bit of everything in that scene. I mean, I don't,
Please.
I'm not quite sure how to articulate it, but do you know what I mean? It's like it's all there. It's quite incredible.
When is it? The thing. The European recording, whatever.
Justine Wright, editor, wonderful editor, tough.
Oh, really?
Tough.
Really?
She's ruthless, but really, real champion of the truthful moments. Obviously.
I'm so sorry, Dwight. Yeah.
It's sort of, your heart breaks for both of them here, I think. It's another one of those things, decent people upsetting each other. They're both kind of right here, and there's not much to be said about it.
I mean, again, I think I remember in rehearsal, and they read it pretty low key, not trying to do too much with it yet. Again, it was a moment where because you just, I mean, maybe it's my own ego or something, but you think, is this thing going to be overwritten? I mean, are there too many ums and ahs? And God love you, I think you've done many a careful trim in it, but it's sort of, actually it's a real relief when you go, no, it plays. It sounds like people arguing. It feels like people arguing. As you say, it's not a kind of black and white thing one way or the other. It's like they're in an awful situation and there is no...
What was gorgeous is, I mean, this was well into the shoot as well, is they love the rhythms of your writing and the particularities of the thought breaks and would trust them as pivot points and as little bounce points in the middle of a line to clarify a thought or to speed up a thought. And
yeah, it's amazing. Now here we are. Where are we? Where is
we are in Rome, downtown Rome. And there is Andrew Garfield playing his walk playing the street clean. He came with us because we were going. It was the last day of shooting, and
the running is the last day. Oh wow!
It's the very end of the shoot.
Oh wow!
And he didn't want to be away, and he was right. He didn't. You know, it would have been weird to finish the film. Without him there.
Yeah.
And so he came, and we made him pay his way by paying an extra. He wanted to.
Wasn't it? I think another of my favourite shots is this beat in the lift. I'm thinking about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Trying to distill the stuff down to simple, detailed images that carry more than they appear to. So much of what you're trying to do is in an edit.
Aerodynamic, innit?
I mean, talking about, you were saying earlier about Doug Hodge, maybe asking the question like, is this going to end up on the cutting room floor? Something about Jade as well, where maybe you sort of go, that stuff, and I'm glad it's in there, and you know that moment of Jade having shaved her head, and the puking.
I think there's almost a military quality to their training. That uniform being buttoned up when she's getting sick earlier on, and Jade helping her, and the kind of thank you, you know.
Yeah.
Better?
It's unspoken between them, which allows their goodbye to be as powerful as it is, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here we go.
And this is or was airport hangars where you took over. Yeah.
Yeah, Albert Jay Karim, please welcome United Kingdom Albert Jay Karim. Come on, England, I can hear you.
And all pretty rigorously recreating the reality of the Bocuse d'Or. I mean, they do come out in this.
We had, and it was part of the being given permission to use their name was a level of veracity that we had to, which we were wanting to do anyway.
Yeah.
We didn't need, but it sort of, yeah. They were helpful. They gave us a lot of help on the exact pots that would be used and the exact.
Oh, did they? Okay. Oh, great.
Logos on uniforms. Florence is quite a good cook.
Yep.
In real life, as it were. She has a feeling for it, so it's, well, she put the time in a Michelin-starred restaurant in Hyde.
Oh, yeah. She went and observed a service or did a service or sort of, yeah.
And She's got a natural feeling for
Let's get them out.
Yep.
Here we go. Thank you.
And how, now I can't remember to the extent to which, I suspect not very much in the script, that there was a ticking clock behind it, but it's kind of a, as it were, a bit of a gift of the reality of the competition, that they have this huge countdown. It's amazing.
I mean, that whole board was created post, actually.
Right.
So, and the more we had of it, the more we liked it, and the more we used it, we began to use it as an actual stopwatch.
Team United Kingdom, 30 seconds to finish.
Yes.
Did it?
Chef?
Do you think did you come across anyone that minded that we don't know whether she sort of did or didn't win, or where she came on the leaderboard?
A bit. And when we did a couple of test screens, and some people were like, "What?" But I felt, you felt, because we walked it forward. We picked up a few more pieces of material and allowed a little bit more cooking.
Yeah.
But I think it's not. The point is not winning or losing at the point. The point is convincing everybody that she's done what was meaningful for her to go out there and do it with Tobias and Ella. And then doing that, it snaps something in it. It's no longer about the medals. Suddenly, she would rather be spending her time doing this.
I mean, again, in the moment just before she removes her hat, and you an amazing testament to Florence that was sort of, she's playing the elation of getting to the end, but also playing, it's not quite enough, actually. It hasn't quite fulfilled her to the extent that maybe she thought it would or hoped she would. And so, of course, she's going to go. Oh, yeah, the dog. It's the dog.
Just put it on the table, yeah? Yeah. Good egg time. Hi, Belinda. Hi, Barry. How's that look? Good? Yeah. In the basket? Yep. In the basket, please.
And which came first? No pun intended, but we were talking right at the beginning about the reordering. Did you, this was at the end, and then you thought, I know what we need at the beginning, or was it the other way around, if you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Can you remember how it evolved?
I think that very soon after I saw this scene cut together, the potency of it was immediate, and the cracking the eggs as, again, a detail which carries so much of what's not said in the scene. It's again, you were talking about parents being evoked earlier on. That also contributes to the sort of absent presence that's in this scene. Without sentimentalizing it, is that somehow we want the presence of the dog to walk into those empty rooms it's lifeless, airless, too quiet, and a dog runs in, and it's sort of simplest thing in the world, but it is a suggestion of change. They talk about getting a dog. They don't get a dog. They do get a dog, and sadly, it means something other. And you kind of know that. Does this mean it's as sad as it is? And yeah, it does. But their stories carrying on together, and that felt like the right way to leave them. And of course, we did. I think in the script we went back to the.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, sorry, the shot you were talking about earlier. Yeah,
the last shots of them were on the playground, or the bumpers being, or the chairs. Imagine it was in the
something like that, wasn't it? Yeah,
one of the fairground rides.
Yes,
and I don't know. We just trusted the delicate, almost naturalism of the start and the end. And both real scenes, and in a way, a slightly different book ending, which is that countryside wide shot which she's running in the first time you see her, and then the second time there's nobody in it, and it was about absence. And thank you.
Thanks.
Beautiful
Thanks very much. Thanks. Beautiful film, John. Thanks.
This is fun. Thank you.